Right, morning fellas, welcome back to another Villa on Tour video today. The big one, people have been asking for ever since we survived on the last day against West Ham. Who do I think we should be signing in the summer transfer window? It's been a little bit quiet since we beat West Ham and we stayed up, but that was to be expected. It's a couple of weeks later now. This is where it starts to accelerate. Signings going on all over the shop. I know Brighton have signed a couple, Man City as well, but now it's Villa's turn. Who will we be signing? What positions do we need to strengthen? That is what I'm going to be talking about in this video. Let me know your thoughts as well. If you agree with me at the end of the video, let me know who we should be signing. What positions do we need to sort out? Let me know in the comments below. Big ask, but if we can hit 2,000 likes on this video, that'd be much appreciated. The support on the channel has been mad recently. Quick shout out to Luke1977 as well. Quick shout out to them. The code MAX20 still gets you 20% off anything, even for sale items over there. They've always got new ranges coming out, so definitely check out Luke. Link in the description. MAX20 for 20% off. Why would you not do it? Also, on the subject of shout outs, you know it's transfer season, it's silly season, so that means OneFootball are back on board. If you haven't already downloaded it, what are you doing? Especially now when transfers are going absolutely mental. Villa are going to be spending tens of millions, so download OneFootball to stay up to date with what is going on in the transfer world, whether it's Villa or your team. If you don't support Villa, just the Premier League in general, foreign leagues, whatever, OneFootball's got you covered. Link in the description. Luke1977, OneFootball, download everything. You know what to do. Without further ado, enough waffle, onto the video. Okay, right, so I think there's definitely some positions that need to be strengthened more than others. I think firstly, the front three. In my opinion, we need a whole new front three, but definitely a striker. Now, I have 5 names here. They vary in terms of realisticness. That's not a word. They vary in terms of how realistic they are. The first one, my opinion, not too realistic. Tammy Abraham coming back to Villa from Chelsea. Now, obviously, we know what Tammy Abraham can do from our time in the Championship a couple of years ago, but he's 22 years old. His record in the Premier League was ridiculous last season. He played about 34 games and scored 15 goals. So that's pretty good. Now, there's been talk about him falling out with Lampard, but I don't read too much into that, to be honest. I don't think it's going to happen, and if we are going to sign him, it's going to be for £50 million plus, maybe even 60. The guy's English, he's young, he's a Premier League goal scorer. It's not going to happen, unfortunately. Another weird one that came out in the last couple of weeks, Divock Origi from Liverpool. He's not going to come. He scored 4 goals in about 28 games this season, which isn't great, but I know he comes off the bench with like 10 minutes to go in pretty much every single game, so he's a backup at Liverpool, the champions of England, Europe, the world. Why would he come to Villa? I know maybe because of game time, but like, come on, it's just not going to happen, is it? However, one that definitely looks like it could be on the cards is Ollie Watkins from Brentford. Now, the guy has been ridiculous this season. Me personally, I've been to watch Brentford, I think 2 or 3 times this season, or last season, and he was just class in every single game. The guy's hold up play is really good. He's quick, he can play across the front 3, left wing, right wing, up top, wherever you need him, he can fill in there. So I think he's quite versatile, which I like. 26 goals last year is a bit mad. That's the same as Tammy Abraham, and you need to see what he can do in the Premier League. So Ollie Watkins, there's been reports about him having an £18 million release clause, but that has come out and that's just rubbish. So I think you're talking 25 million for Brentford to accept, but I definitely think he's one to get through the door. How do you say this guy's name? Eduard, Oddson Edouard. Okay. Now, someone that will cost a lot more money than Watkins is Oddson Edouard. I think I've said that right, from Celtic, the Frenchman. You're looking at 30-40 plus million. He would be your main man. Scored 40 goals in 60 games for Celtic. I've spoken to my mates, a couple of them are Celtic fans and watch Celtic a lot. They've said this guy's the real deal. I think it's going to cost a lot of money. If you get Watkins in, are you going to be able to get Edouard in as well? Probably not. I don't know. Is Watkins going to be your main man? Is that a bit of a risk? No Premier League experience? It's a tough one, but he's big, he's powerful, but the only thing is he plays in the Scottish League and that gets a lot of stick, so I don't know, it sort of makes it difficult to work out how much he'd be in terms of a figure, but I'd definitely love to get him in because he's just a bit good. A couple of names as well, Josh King and Callum Wilson from relegated Bournemouth. I definitely think they'll both be on their way because of the relegation to Bournemouth, but I'm not sure. Callum Wilson's a bit hit and miss. His value's fallen a little bit in recent years. He has injury problems. Josh King, though, I think is a very good shout. Again, like Ollie Watkins, can play along the front 3 anywhere, and he's quite good. So I'd like Josh King 100%. So those are the striker names that I'm going to talk about. The other position that I definitely without a shadow of a doubt we need to improve on is on the wings. Now you all know the name, you all know what's coming, Saeed Benrahma. Now we did try to sign him this time last year, but the figure was just slightly too high and Villa didn't want to pay it. I think his price has significantly increased since then, so well done Villa. But yeah, I think you're talking 25, 30, 35 million for this guy. Like, he's just incredible. Like I said, I've been to watch Brentford a few times this season and he's just something that we don't have. The way he's so skillful. I know Jack can dribble and keep the ball really close to his feet, and Benrahma is quite similar to that, but his skill is something that I've just not seen. It's incredible. His agility, the way he's able to turn on the ball is just amazing, and he can just create a chance from absolutely nothing. And I think if Jack Grealish is only the real only creative outlet we've got in the squad, so I think if you can add to that, 100%. Get it done. Get Saeed Benrahma in my club now. But failing that, I think obviously he's going to cost a lot of money and Brentford aren't necessarily going to want to let him go, but I think they're going to have to because it's his time to step up into the Premier League now. But failing that, Delafeu, I don't know if I've said that right either, from Watford, relegated Watford, but I don't think Delafeu is the answer. I think he's had massive injury problems. I think when he's on form, like he was a couple of seasons ago in the FA Cup semi-final against Wolves, where he was just ridiculous and he just teared Wolves apart. It was amazing to watch. But that's quite rare. I think he's quite inconsistent. And I know wingers are inconsistent, but for me, I think you need someone like Benrahma who's got the stats, and just has proved himself. I think I'd like someone like that over someone like Delafeu. Another name that's been around Villa for quite a while now I'm going to definitely butcher his name, Milo Rashica, something like that, from Werder Bremen in Germany. Now let's talk about us signing him in January, but we just straight up didn't have the funds. He's a winger but can play up top as well, so like Ollie Watkins, he can play anywhere across the front three, but I don't see this one happening. I think we're talking 30+ million, and I know Dortmund and Leipzig are interested as well, so if he wants to stay in Germany, he'll go there. I think there's been a few comparisons about him and Jack Grealish being quite similar, not in terms of how they play, but like in terms of stature at the club. I think he's definitely a big fish in a small pond at Werder Bremen, who I think they narrowly missed out on relegation in the German league, so he's definitely going to move on, but it makes more sense for him to go to a German side like a Dortmund or Leipzig. Now, a winger that I really can see happening is Emiliano Buendia from Norwich. I think typically he is a creative midfielder, but he can also play on the wings, which I quite like. I think we need players who are a little bit more versatile like Buendia. I think 20 million is the figure. Obviously he went down with Norwich last season, but his stats were ridiculous in terms of chances created, etc. You know, classic stats like that. They were really good, and for a side like Norwich who got battered pretty much every single week and had pretty much none of the ball every game, that is really impressive. So I've just finished recording the whole video and I completely forgot to talk about Eberechi Eze from QPR. Now I don't see it happening because I think there's links with Crystal Palace. He wants to stay in London. I don't think Villa are prepared to spend the 20 million that QPR wants, so I don't see it happening, but I think he'd be a quality addition. I've watched QPR a few times this season and he is ridiculous on the ball, but I don't see it happening. He's probably going to go to Crystal Palace, but yeah, on with the rest of the video. On the boys. So I definitely think we need something creative in midfield to add to Jack Grealish. My two top picks would definitely be Saeed Benrahma and Buendia. I think if Brentford are asking for way too much money for Benrahma, I think you've got to go in for Buendia. So those are the wingers and strikers sorted. Now for me, I think we need another central midfielder. I think, don't get me wrong, Douglas Luiz has been phenomenal since the restart. I think 100% if we can keep him, which I think we will. I think he'll be the main man in the middle, and I think you've got John McGinn alongside him as well. But what worries me is, look, don't get me wrong, I love Conor Hourihane, I really do, but I think if you're going to go to the next level in the Premier League, I think Conor Hourihane's got to take a step back and become an impact sub or someone off the bench to come on and make an impact. And I think we need to maybe bolster the midfield. Do you get a player who's a box-to-box player, really athletic, or do you get like a hard-hitting, no-nonsense central midfielder? I'm not sure. So the names I've got here, a couple of people from relegated sides like Doucouré from Watford. I don't really see that one being too realistic because I think he's been linked with Tottenham and Arsenal in the past for like a £50 million move. In the past, I don't think he'll go for that now, obviously, because Watford got relegated, but I just don't see that one happening. One that I quite like is Philip Billing from Bournemouth. Now, he's been relegated in the last 2 years with Huddersfield and Bournemouth, so I don't think it's a great omen to get someone like that into your club, but when he came to Villa Park with Bournemouth at the start of the season, he was fantastic. Yes, he should have got sent off, but I just think he's one of those midfielders, like I said, no nonsense, he's not going to mess about, he loves the tackle. I don't think he's great going forward at all, so I don't know if he'd be the right option to go in the midfield with Douglas Luiz and John McGinn, but I'd still love him at the Villa, 100%. Now, looking at the list that I've compiled of midfielders, none of these are good going forward, so I think if you take Hourihane out the side and put these in, are you missing out on that goal threat going forward? Definitely. So yeah, not ideal. And the epitome of that next up is James McCarthy from Crystal Palace. Now, he's not a sexy name. He's not a Brazilian central midfielder like Douglas Luiz. He's not come from anywhere special, but I'd really like this signing to get over the line. I think there's been rumoured fees of £5 million. Absolute bargain. Premier League experience. He's 29. He's been there. He's done that. I'd love to get him in, even as a backup to someone like Douglas Luiz, because you've got Nick Amber on the bench, rumours about him going to Turkey. Get James McCarthy in the club now, please. Similar name to that, Jeff Hendrick, who is a free agent from Burnley. Again, not a sexy name, not a really appealing player, but Premier League experience. He's been there, done that. I just think he'd add that little bit, maybe not quality, but just experience and an old head. Just to come into the side, because our squad is quite young, so someone like that to come in, just add a bit of experience, I wouldn't mind it at all. Next name is Steven Nzonzi in the midfield. Now, there was links about us signing him in January, but we didn't have the funds and we went for Danny Drinkwater instead. So yeah, like I said, there's been no links around Steven Nzonzi in this summer transfer window, but I think someone like that, he's massive, he's tall, he's athletic, I quite like that in the midfield, because I think, especially think back to that Man United game at home when we lost 3-0, our midfield was bypassed so easily and we looked really bad. So someone to just come in, solidify that, maybe push Luiz forward or McGinn forward, I don't know, but someone to come into the midfield, make it a little bit stronger. Now, definitely wingers, strikers, and possibly a midfielder, that's where we need to strengthen. But you look at the stats, you think Villa have conceded, I think it was second most goals in the Premier League. You think, well, surely we need to sort out the defence. Since lockdown, I think we had one of the best defences in the league, which sounds weird, it really does, but I think we were like definitely in the top 10 in terms of defensive records in the Premier League. And I think Tyrone Mings has had a difficult season. I'm not going to, you know, put my claret blue tinted spectacles on. He has had a difficult season and he has worried me a little bit at times. Ezri Konsa since the restart has been brilliant. For someone who's 21, 22, however old he is, he's been superb. An extra year of Premier League football under his belt, I think he'll be pretty good. But for me, I just think we need another centre-back. Does that mean moving on Bjorn Engels, who's had a bit of a weird spell, hasn't played since March? I know he's had his injury worries. Do you move on Courtney Hawes? Probably not, because he can fill in at left back. He's quite versatile as well. I just think we need someone at centre back who's maybe an older player, maybe someone who's been there, done that. Someone like a Gary Cahill, who there was talks about us signing last year. I really think we should have done that. Didn't get that over the line. I know it was close, but that didn't quite happen. I just think maybe, I've got a couple of names here. People talk about Axel Tuanzebe from Man United. Obviously, he's still in love with the Villa. We still love him. But I just don't think he'd be the right sort of person. He's very young, no Premier League experience. I just don't think that's the sort of player we need at the moment. Now, I don't see these being very realistic, but Ben Mee and James Tarkowski from from Burnley, I definitely think those are the sorts of players we'd be going for. Probably not them, because Burnley are quite hard to get players off because they are such a tight-knit sort of unit. And I think especially pulling out one of their centre-halves is not going to be easy. But someone like that, Ben Mee's 30, Tarkowski is pretty close to that, I think, I'm not sure. Just someone like that who's been there, done that, Premier League experience, slot in next to Tyrone Mings. I'd quite like that. I would not say no at all. I think there's been talk about a fullback coming in, whether that's left side or right side, more than there has about a centre-half coming in. There's been rumours about the Norwich fullbacks, Max Aarons and Jamal Lewis coming in, but I think there's been links with Liverpool as well, so don't see that one happening. But I just think you've got Matt Targett there, who we spent £17 million on, Freddie Gilbert, who's a decent player. I don't think they're the issues with the squad. I think there's definitely other areas of the squad that need addressing more than the fullback situation. Maybe in terms of squad depth, you look at Neil Taylor, El Mohammadi, are they good enough? I think Elmo probably is, but I think Neil Taylor is pretty much done. So do you get a fullback in to be backup to Matt Targett? I don't know. People talk about Rico Henry as well coming in from Brentford. I know Dean Smith has worked with him at Walsall and Brentford as well, and obviously he didn't get promoted with Brentford, so maybe a cut price. I don't know. I'd definitely look at getting in a backup left back though, 100%, but not someone that's going to come in and overtake Matt Targett, no. Now, I've waffled on for absolutely ages, but the final position is goalkeeper. Now, Tom Heaton, I love the bloke, but when's he back from injury? He had the injury on New Year's Day, which was over 8 months ago, and I don't think there's any talk about him being back anytime soon. I don't think he'll be back for the start of the season, and do you really want to start the season with Orjan Nyland in goal? No, you don't. Now, I've given my fair bit of stick to Pepe Reina in the past, don't get me wrong, but I just think he wants to leave AC Milan. AC Milan want to get rid of him. So do you get him in for a one-year deal? I wouldn't say no to that at all. I think that would be a decent bit of business. He's been at the club in the past. Why not? Another couple of names that I think are slightly unrealistic. Ben Foster from Watford. He probably hates the Villa. He's been at Albion and Blues in the past. He hates Villa. I think he's come out and said that. But he's definitely Premier League quality. He's been in the Premier League for years. I think he's 37, 38, but he's still extremely athletic. He's a really, really good goalkeeper. Definitely Premier League ability. And he's in the Championship with Watford now, so could you get him in on a short-term deal? Why not? One that is definitely more unrealistic is Aaron Ramsdale from Bournemouth. Had a really, really good breakthrough season under Eddie Howe at Bournemouth, but I just think he's going to cost a lot of money. I think they brought him in for like £1 million or something, but I think you're looking at 10, 15, 20 for him, because I think he's had an England... Has he had an England cap? I don't think he has, but he's in the England setup. He's a really, really good young goalkeeper. Don't see it happening. But I think maybe even a loan deal for some sort of goalkeeper, because I just do not want to start the season with Orjan Nyland in goal, please. But I think that's pretty much it. I've probably missed a few names out. If I have, let me know in the comments. Who would you be looking at signing? What positions do we need to look at? Please do let me know in the comments below. Like I said, 2,000 likes would be unreal. But thank you very much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully we'll make a few more signings before my next video, whenever that'll be. But download more football, Luke 1977, link in the description. Thank you very much for watching. Up the Villa.